You're listening to Cherrypickin Entertainment.
Throw me the ball and watch what I do with it.
You are now tuned into the Cherrypickin podcast with your host, Andre Cherry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Cherrypickin podcast. I'm your host, Andre Cherry, and week one came and went. I'm actually watching the TCU versus North Carolina game right now. It's in the first quarter. North Carolina is up 7-0. It looks like everybody that has ever been associated with the UNC program is at that game in Chapel Hill right now. There's a lot of excitement, certainly, for Bill Belichick's first game as a head coach on the college level with UNC. I think I saw literally everybody that's been associated in terms of a big-name athlete at that game. Julius Peppers, Michael Jordan, Coach Roy Williams. I don't think I saw Vince Carter there, but you get the point. Mia Hamm, soccer legend in the women's game. They're all at this game right now, so I've got the game on TV while I record this podcast. But week one, it was exciting. It was fun. There was some good action. So we'll get into it on this podcast, and certainly wanted to start this off by talking about Lee Corso. He retired, and I think it hit me harder than I thought it would. Like, Lee Corso, he's been around forever. He's been around, I believe, 40 years on College Game Day, if you can believe that. I'm 38 years old.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! I'm not a kid!
And I feel like I've grown up with Lee Corso. He's been a part of my childhood, part of me just growing up and loving the game more and more each year as a kid. And the fact that he is now off the program, he's done, he's moved on to greener pastures, I guess. It kind of feels like the end of my childhood. Like, it just feels like things have changed in a way that I need to now kind of reconcile. Pat McAfee, you know the guy, you love him, hate him, whatever. He's going to be a big focal point of the show moving forward. He's already been huge, but I would imagine he's going to take more responsibility on. But the fact that Lee Corso, he was one of only two people that have been there when College Game Day went on the road. And if you remember the show from the early aughts, they were a studio show. I don't even know when they started going on the road, but that's all I remember now is that they go on the road. Coach Lee Corso was there since the beginning. And the fact that he's done, I kind of had mixed emotions about it because there were a few times over the past few years that you could see that Lee Corso wasn't the same. You could see him kind of struggling to get through segments. And I don't know that we all had the grace. Like, looking back, maybe we could have had more grace with handling Lee Corso. But now that he's gone, it's like, man, like a part of my childhood is gone forever. And all the teams that he coached for or played with or was associated with, he went undefeated. Like, all the teams that he was associated with coming up as a coach or a player, they all won their games. I think it was like 6-0. They all won their games, which is outstanding. I don't know if they planned that or if they had extra motivation to win those games, but they all won the games, including Florida State over a ranked Alabama team that I did not see that win coming at all. So shout out to FSU, shout out to NIU, shout out to Indiana. Like, all these teams won for Coach Corso, and that's outstanding. And I wish him well in the future. But again, I have mixed emotions next week when I watch part of that show, because I don't watch the full show, but I do like to watch in the beginning hour. And then I actually like to watch the Pat McAfee segment as well, like the kicking segment, field goal kicks. I think College Game Day gets that segment right. Like, that's awesome. There's so much excitement. There's so much drama just built in from having these college kids kick a field goal to try to win X amount of dollars. I think the kid that won this past weekend won like $250,000, which is insane. That's like life-changing money. Like, College Game Day, they get that segment completely right. Like, I love watching that. That's like must-see TV on Saturday mornings for College Game Day. That's awesome. But to get back to my original point, just wanted to give a shout out to Coach Lee Corso. It's going to feel different moving forward without him. I'm sure they'll address it next week. The fact that all his teams won, they miss him, they love him, but definitely want to say congrats to a great career. That it's crazy that he's been around longer than I've been watching college football. Like 40 years on that show is impressive. And then coaching career before that. I mean, he's truly an entertainer, and ESPN did a great piece on Coach Corso and just kind of talked about Lee Corso's thoughts in how you do this show, how you make it entertaining, how you make it fun. And there's a lot to learn from that. And I definitely just want to say I respect everything that he's done, and look forward to seeing kind of how he enjoys the rest of his days outside of football. Now he can kind of rest. I'm sure that travel schedule was kind of a grind for him. 90 years old, that's tough to have to go to a new city each week, coast to coast. That's got to be hard. So I'm sure he's looking forward to a little break, but I'm sure he'll miss it. But we'll definitely miss Coach Corso as well. So just wanted to give some love and respect to Coach Corso. And then after, they did their picks for this week, it led right into the Texas versus Ohio State game, which I thought was kind of boring. I thought it was a snooze fest. If I'm being honest, it was boring. It was definitely a battle of the two defenses, but I was hoping we'd see more offense from these two teams. There was a lot of hype for Arch Manning, and it feels like he didn't deliver. And I suspected that he wasn't going to deliver. If you listen to my last podcast last week, I thought that we're going to see what he can do, what he's capable of, but that's a big stage against a great team in Ohio State. It feels like Ohio State will be dominant in the Big Ten this year. If I had to guess, I think they're going to be right in the mix until the end of the season. And I just felt like Arch Manning didn't deliver, and it didn't feel like the pressure or the stakes were too high for him. It just seemed like he couldn't get the job done. I get this is the first time he's got complete controls over the offense, and there were instances where his receivers didn't really help him out with missed catches, but you could see that Arch Manning was off on a few of his throws. He went 17 for 30 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. The first half ended with OSU up 7-0. And neither team scored in the third quarter, but I would have expected more from the number 1 team in the country. And as I said last week, Texas will certainly use this game to get better the rest of the way this season, but I was not impressed with what I saw from the Longhorns in a big-time matchup against OSU. I would truly be shocked if Texas makes it into the playoffs playing like that the rest of the season, but it was just the first game of the season. They've got many more weeks to go. They can use this as kind of a launch pad or some sort of training inspiration to get better, to make it through the gauntlet of the SEC, to hopefully make it to the SEC championship game and or make it to the playoffs. So there's a lot that they can use in this as motivation and as a way to improve. But I can just tell you right now, if that's the level of effort that we see from Texas week in and week out, there's going to be some changes coming this season and at the end of the season. So more to come there. And then just taking a look back at the top 5 picks that I had for week 1 action, I went 4-0 for the first games of the weekend, which was outstanding. And then there was a game that I thought I would be a surefire win, and that game was against Florida State and Alabama. Bama ends up losing to Florida State pretty convincingly, 31-17. This is actually the Tide's first opening season loss since 2001, if you can believe that or not. I was a freshman in high school back in 2001. Shout out to FSU for being more prepared than Alabama was. I saw some stuff on Twitter, and certainly take this with a grain of salt, but there are some random rumors that are going on that Bama just hasn't been disciplined. It hasn't been as disciplined under head coach Kalen DeBoer like they were under Nick Saban. And I'm sure that's true. There's probably a lot of truth to that, because who is as disciplined as Nick Saban is on the college coaching level? Certainly Bill Belichick now is probably up there because he's now in college, in the college football ranks, but nobody's probably more prepared, more disciplined, more with it than Nick Saban was. So, that doesn't really bother me as much hearing that. But I did see something on Twitter from one of the burner accounts from Alabama that people had seen players with Bama out late. They were ordering food late in Tallahassee. They were friends coming and going late in the night while the Alabama program was on the road. I don't know if that's true or not, but they certainly look like a hot mess against Florida State this past weekend. And I am sure the spotlight has to be burning bright on Coach DeBoer right now. After the game, after that loss, that embarrassing loss, he was quoted as saying, and I quote, "I choose to believe we got a good football team," DeBoer said, "but we can't play on our heels. We're not going to be what we think we can be, what we want to be, if that's the case," end quote. Meanwhile, Florida State looked really good in their victory win against an SEC power Alabama. BC transfer quarterback Tommy Castellanos rushed for 78 yards. He had one score in the game as well. I actually found it fascinating that Bama was held to under 100 yards rushing on the day with 87 rush yards. The last time the Crimson Tide were held to under 100 yards in a loss as a team was back on November 26, 2022 against Auburn, the Iron Bowl, one of their most hated rivals of all time. Rushing for under 100 yards should absolutely not happen for Alabama and against a team like Florida State. Like, Bama should never rush for under 100 yards. In my mind, Bama has been one of the best rushing teams of the last decade or so, easily. And they were held to under 100 yards rushing by an unranked Florida State team that won, 2 games last season? Alabama was ranked number 8 in the country. They had their sights set on another deep run in the SEC and a playoff appearance this year, and they probably are on the outside looking in. Granted, it was an ACC team that they lost to, but you get what I'm saying. That loss doesn't bode well for confidence building the rest of the way. This is a statement win for Florida State, and it's pretty funny seeing Florida State's fans rush the field after the victory. Like, you've been there before. You've been a dominant program. You are, in my lifetime, one of the best teams I've ever seen play college football. And your fans are pouring out of the stadium seats. It's like a tidal wave of fans just rushing the field like they've never seen a victory of that magnitude before. I get it, it's a big win, and I get that we're in different times these days, but it's kind of crazy to see a team like Florida State fans rush the field. Great win for Florida State. Also hearing rumors that Florida State may bounce to the SEC. I hope they don't. I hope this isn't fuel for them to be like, look, we can beat an Alabama, one of your best teams out of the SEC. We can hang with the big boys. I hope they stay in the ACC because I'm an ACC guy through and through. But shout out to Florida State in that victory against Bama. That's tough if you're a Bama fan. So through week 1 action, I am 4-1 on my top 5 locks. I will give you my top 5 locks for week 2 action for the teams within Power 4. We'll start in the ACC. I'm taking Illinois over Duke. This is the first meeting between Illinois and Duke since 1965, where the Fighting Illini won 28-14. Illinois is coming off a dominating win over the Leathernecks of Western Illinois by a score of 52-3. Duke is also coming off of a 45-17 win against Elon. Manny Diaz is in his second year as a head coach at Duke and is coming off an impressive 9-4 record in 2024. To me, Manny Diaz is an ACC guy through and through, and I think being at Duke is a good spot for him to learn and grow more as a head coach. His transfer quarterback from Tulane, Darian Mensah, seems like he's going to be the right guy for the job. Last week, he threw 3 touchdowns in the second half. In his debut win against Elon, he finished for 27 for 34 passing for 389 yards. They're going to need some of that same effort and more against a stout Illinois defense that only allowed 163 total yards and gave up no touchdowns against Western Illinois during the Illini's home opener last weekend. My buddies Joel and Devin were out there. They looked like they had a great time. I can't wait to go out there. My buddy Brad Lindemeyer was also out there as well. I think Illinois will be too much for Duke in this matchup, so I'm taking the Illini against the Blue Devils in a win out of the ACC. Then out of the Big Ten, I'm taking Michigan over Oklahoma. It's kind of hard to believe that this weekend's matchup between Michigan and Oklahoma is the second time ever that these two blue bloods have ever met. They first squared off back in 1976, and that's a little over 10 years before a young Cherrypickin was even born. During that first matchup, Oklahoma won 14-6. I think this matchup will be close as well. These two offenses spread the ball out well to the receivers during their week 1 wins, and I feel as if Michigan will have the defensive edge over OU. In Michigan's week 1 victory over New Mexico, the Wolverines' defense limited the Lobos to only 51 yards rushing. The defense also came up with 3 interceptions. Lastly, OU played my alma mater, Illinois State, last weekend, and the Redbirds gave them stiff competition, much stiffer than I think that they were probably expecting. ISU is supposed to be a great team this year on the FCS level, and they probably wore OU down a bit. So I would suspect Michigan can capitalize on this and jump out to an early lead this weekend against Oklahoma. So out of the Big Ten, I'm taking Michigan over Oklahoma. Then out of the Big 12, I'm going to take Iowa State over Iowa. I love calling this game every year. I love just keeping my eyes on the game every year. I've had friends that have gone to Iowa State. My little sister Adrian went to Iowa, so it definitely feels like there's some interest there for me to, pay attention to this game year in and year out. It's kind of fun. And a lot of kids that I grew up with went to Iowa out of Chicagoland to go to college. So Iowa is definitely, there's an extension of Chicago in Iowa, and so I always like to just keep my eyes on this game. This is the 72nd battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy, and despite Iowa winning the last 7 of 9 overall in 6 straight in Ames, Iowa, I feel like Iowa State is due to break that streak. ISU is currently 2-0, and they've got a very nice schedule the rest of the way, and they should be favored in most of the games that they've got remaining this season. This matchup between these two Iowa schools is generally pretty close. It's usually within a touchdown or a few points, but I think this is the year that Iowa State wins big. I like this team from top to bottom, and I think they show the world just how talented they are this season against the Hawkeyes. So I'm taking Iowa State to win big over Iowa to reclaim the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Then out of the SEC, I'm taking Missouri over Kansas. I'm also excited for this matchup between Missouri and Kansas. My little sister Andrea went to Missouri. I've got family in Como. I grew up with Missouri in my household. I love Missouri. Missouri versus Kansas, who at one time used to be hated rivals in the Big 12 Conference. These two teams played in the Border Wars, and it's actually the first meeting since 2011 that the rivalry is being renewed. I've enjoyed watching Kansas's quarterback Jalen Daniels perform these last several years, especially back in 2023 when he led the Jayhawks to an impressive 9-win record. But they haven't played a game against an SEC foe ever, and while I don't expect Missouri to be world beaters this year, I feel like the game is at a different level with any team from the SEC. So I take Missouri's experience, Missouri's strength, speed. They're well coached. I'd take Missouri to win big over Kansas this weekend. So I'm taking Missouri over Kansas out of the SEC. And then I'm taking another SEC, making another SEC prediction, that is, Florida over South Florida. Florida certainly ended its season on a strong note last season. They went 8-5 overall, and they won the last 3 games on its schedule against 2 ranked SEC opponents, which is crazy because things seemed so bleak in Gainesville when they opened the season last year, losing 2 out of the first 3 games. It bought Billy Napier some time for him to finish the way that he did, going 8-5, but he's going to have his work cut out for him this season, as the schedule is just as ferocious as it was last season. But this matchup against USF should be slight work for his Gators. These two teams have met 3 times in the past, and the Gators have won every single game. So I would expect UF to win big against USF this weekend. So out of the SEC, I'm taking Florida over South Florida. So those are my top 5 picks out of the Power 4 conferences. Let me run that back for you one more time. These are straight up predictions. In the ACC, I'm taking Illinois over Duke. In the Big 10, I'm taking Michigan over Oklahoma. In the Big 12, I'm taking Iowa State over Iowa. Out of the SEC, I'm taking Missouri over Kansas. And then out of the SEC for my second game, I'm taking Florida over South Florida. And before I get out of here, I did just want to shout out to the folks that put on the Ocean City, New Jersey Battle at the Beach. It was a great event. I went out there last week to watch some high school football. The games that I saw, Bergen Catholic versus East St. Louis. I also saw Winslow Township against IMG Academy. And I have never, ever seen the number of stars in a high school football games than I did this past week down at the Shore, Ocean City, New Jersey Battle of the Beach. I had a great time watching these future stars of the college game. I'm sure some of these kids will probably also go on to the NFL, so I'm excited to follow their careers. Bergen Catholic versus East St. Louis. That was the first game I saw completely. I have a friend who coaches on Bergen Catholic, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see him, or I saw him. He didn't see me. I didn't get a chance to link up with him, but I enjoyed just he invited me out. He's like, you should come out. I'm playing at Ocean City, New Jersey, playing against East St. Louis, and that really piqued my interest when he said East St. Louis. I'm from Illinois, and to see an IHSA team travel all the way, damn near in Missouri, to Ocean City, New Jersey to play some football, definitely a lot of respect for that East St. Louis program, but they've got a lot of stars as well. Like, they have some running backs. Number 4 star, Myson Cook Johnson. He's the number 1 rated player in Illinois. Number 2 rated athlete in the country. He's got offers from Bama, Arkansas, Baylor, Colorado, Florida. Jabari Lofton, a DB. He's got offers from Michigan State, Sacramento State. Ahmad Coleman, 5'9" running back. He's got an offer from Michigan. And then Bergen Catholic, I mean, it was damn near like 10 kids have stars and offers from big-time programs on that program. It was outstanding. Bergen Catholic went up to like a 14-0 lead, and then East St. Louis clawed its way back, and they eventually overtook Bergen Catholic. It came down to like the last minute and a half. Bergen Catholic had a punt blocked, or they blocked East St. Louis's punt, rather, and returned it for a touchdown. They took the lead. They won by 1 point. It was 22-21. Bergen Catholic won the game. And I feel like I was watching real football. I grew up, my Naperville Central, we're no slouches either, but it just felt like I was watching professional football. These kids are well coached. These kids are very serious. They're recruited to play at these schools. Bergen Catholic, I believe they're recruited. I know IMG recruits across the nation. But like, these are football factories. This is big time. So when Bergen Catholic was down, I'm sure they didn't falter. I'm sure they didn't get flustered or down on themselves. They just responded, and they were able to come up with the win. They came up with a monster block, and they won the game with like a minute left. It was crazy. It was an outstanding event from top to bottom. I did meet this older gentleman. His name was Joe T. He lives out in Ocean City, New Jersey. I want to give a shout out to Joe T because I spent hours with Joe T. Like, 4 or 5 hours. We were just watching football, and he was just a random guy to me. I didn't know him prior to coming. He just said, "Is anybody sitting next to you?" I said, "No. Well, why don't we sit down and watch this game?" Game together. We were sitting on the Bergen Catholic sideline, and I would have stayed there too. I wanted to give support and love to my guy Ron, but they had these like tents up that kind of blocked the view from the stand. So we were like, you know what? Why don't we go on the other side? Because we really couldn't see. We could see like half of the field, but then the other end zone we could not see anything at all because of these tents that they had set up on the sideline. So we went over to the East St. Louis side and the east side, and the folks over there were cool. Everybody was, there was no issues. Everybody was cordial. Everybody was friendly. I'm sure they were happy to have us over there, and it was fun. I was rooting for East St. Louis at one point because I didn't want to see them lose 14-0. They came all the way from East St. Louis, and they're going to get shut out like that. So I was kind of torn a little bit. Like my buddy who's the coach at Bergen Catholic, excited for what he's built there, but East St. Louis, that they're from Illinois. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm from. So I was excited to see a good game overall. It was exciting. I got to find the replay somewhere because I believe it was taped, but it was just awesome action. The second game, Winslow Township against IMG Academy, was just as fun. IMG Academy is kind of like a cheat code. I mean, they got players from all across the country. They got a player from Hawaii even on IMG Academy, and they got some serious studs. They got a 3-star running back committed to Louisville. Zach Fort, 4-star safety committed to UGA. Amani Irvin, 4-star linebacker. He's uncommitted right now. They got Keeney Pope, or Pepe. Keeney Pepe, 5-star offensive lineman. He's committed to USC. Another lineman, Breck Colo J, 4-star lineman. I mean, they got some studs. In Winslow Township, I wasn't familiar with their game prior to their matchup against IMG Academy, but I'm a fan. I mean, they had a few players that were just balling out, and nobody wants to get punked from an IMG Academy. Nobody wants to get embarrassed, and I feel like they played a great game through the first half. The second half, they kind of hung around a little bit, but IMG Academy eventually won in the end. But I'm telling you, there were some players. And I'm thinking of Jalen Parker. He's a quarterback, athlete. He's a junior with Winslow Township. I mean, he was taking some crazy hits, but he was also making some crazy plays. At one point, I think he got his feet upended and he did like a forward flip into the end zone to score for Winslow Township. Like, he was balling out. There was another running back on their team, Nakeem Powell, who played 4 different positions, which is, I've never seen that before ever on a roster. He played running back, wide receiver, cornerback, free safety. He's got an offer from ECU. He was balling out. I mean, it was fun from top to bottom. I've never seen that before, where all these 5-star, 4-star, 3-star athletes are all in one event together. I will never forget it. There were a bunch of random people that were just there watching the games. Like, I stayed with Joe T the entire night. I was kind of sad to leave him because it was like, man, we just shared this cool experience. And he's retired, like I said, a retired guy. And we just kind of got along and just I enjoyed watching the game with him. I hope maybe we can do that again next year, Joe T, if you're listening to this. But definitely appreciated your, just being there and being able to share that experience with you. There are other football fans in the stadiums just watching as well. So it's crazy to see what high school football has kind of evolved to. And I feel like these teams are far and away better than any team that I've ever been associated with in high school or in youth football. And it made me sad that I can't play it anymore. It made me sad that I'm an adult now. I miss everything about high school football. I miss everything about youth football and your families being involved. Everybody showing love and showing out and supporting you, and you're there with your brothers battling. You battled all through the summer to get better as a team, to make your position, to make your starting role or whatever the case may be, and then you put all that hard work into games each Friday. And I hope these kids stay healthy and have great seasons, but it truly made me sad that I can't be a part of the game anymore, but watching this event made me feel so happy. And so it was a great time. I look to go next year, hopefully, and I can't wait to see the teams that they pick for next season. But it was really cool seeing East St. Louis representing from IHSA. I am absolutely sure that they will be in the state finals again in Illinois. I think all these teams will be in their respective state championship games this season. It was that big of an event. Like, these are big teams. These aren't joke teams. These are real squads, and I'll be following them all throughout their seasons this year. So it was a great time. Great to see Joe T. Unfortunately, I couldn't see my guy, Ron, but I'm glad that he knew I was there at least, because I feel like sometimes when you offer stuff to people or you tell people, why don't you come out? And people are like, yeah, I'll come out. Yeah, for sure. You don't know if you can trust them at their word. Like, are they really going to come out? Or are they just being polite? Are they being nice? But I was 100% serious when he told me this past summer. He's like, oh yeah, I'm a coach and we're playing in this event in Ocean City, New Jersey. Come on out. I was 100% serious. And usually when I say something, I'm a man of my word. If I'm going to do it, I'll be there. I rented a car. I rented a hotel room. Like, I was committed for that day to see this football event. And it didn't let me down at all. Like, I had a great time. I'll post pictures on my website so you can take a look at it at cherrypickinsports.com. But again, I hope to be there next year, and I wish my good buddy Ron success this season, and I hope they can win the rest of the way. Great time, great meeting Joe T. Football was all part of my weekend. It's going to be all part of this upcoming weekend. The Eagles play on Thursday against Dallas, which is going to be crazy in Philly. We are here, my friends. College football, NFL football, high school football. This is the time, this is the moment, and this is the chance for your team to make a statement. I just want to say thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Week 2 action is coming right at us. Hope you guys have a great week. It's a short week, Labor Day. So Labor Day holiday today, which in my opinion, I feel like Labor Day should be the start of the year. Not literally like, the end of the year, but like I feel like it's a new season after Labor Day. And I know everybody gets excited for making New Year's resolutions at the end of December, but it just feels funky to me that that's kind of our start to making new commitments, making new changes in our lives. Like I feel like Labor Day is the true start of the new beginning. My daughter, she's going back to school. The fall season of like NBC and ABC, all these programs come out in early September. I just feel like it's the start for a lot of stuff, and maybe it should be the start for my mindset, our mindsets as we move forward. Hopefully we can all get better and lose the weight, keep it off. We can be better people. We can get our goals accomplished like right after Labor Day. That's the true beginning for a lot of stuff. So that's just my little rant. Thank you all for listening to this podcast episode. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy college football this weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Peace. They first squared off back in 1976, and that's a little over 10 years before a young Cherrypickin was even born. Thank you again for tuning into my Cherrypickin podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe to my show and drop me a rating on Apple Podcasts. All of my digital content can be found at the website cherrypickinsports.com. And if you are looking to interact with me via social media, my Twitter handle is @cherry_pickin. That's PICKIN. On my Twitter, you'll also find a link to my blog where I post my weekly college football predictions and analysis. I can also be reached via email at cherrypickinsports@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me regarding what you like about this podcast or about what content you'd like to hear more of on future episodes. I sincerely thank you for your support, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.